Good afternoon. Welcome to the Red Sky Big Match Preview. I'm joined by former Barnsley player Wayne Goodison today, and I'm also joined by the Jacuzzi Karaoke King himself, Callum Cooper. How are we doing, lads?
I'm doing really well, thank you, Chris. I'm loving these nicknames that you come up with every week. They're fantastic. I mean, that's my favourite so far.
It is. The video will remain unused in the opening intro per your request, but you know we'll keep coming up with these nice nicknames for you every week. Wayne, how are you yourself, mate? How are you getting on?
I'm all right. I'm a bit disappointed though, because this is something else now. He won't invite me to five-a-side, and he's not invited to Tuesday. I don't know what's going on.
I'll make you come next time, Wayne. I'll make it a thing that you'll get an invite.
We'll have to we'll get Wayne in group chat and you can see videos and the dulcet tones of
get me in there.
Definitely.
But yeah, right, lads. Obviously, another victory on Saturday. Going to come to Wayne first. A lot of Middlesbrough players complaining about the long ball on Twitter that weren't playing at the weekend. What was it like for you as an ex-pro watching that game on Saturday? Because as a fan, I'm at the level now where I don't give a monkeys how they play because they're winning games.
Listen, it's been interesting all season, and I very rarely comment that much, but I just felt the need to comment on social media at the weekend. You know, the amount of teams, players, managers, opposition staff, whatever. I've been talking to a member of the Blackburn staff this week that have just fallen completely into the trap of getting caught up with how we play, what our game plan is, instead of concentrating on themselves and trying to, don't get me wrong, you've got to try and counteract it to a degree, but they've just all stopped playing their own game, and we're very effective at what we do. And the bottom line is whether you're an ex-player or a fan or a coach or whatever, it's professional football. It's about winning games. If you don't win games, you lose jobs. And you know, the team have found a formula that works for them. The manager's found a formula that works for them. I think he clearly keeps it quite simple for them. I'm sure they do look at the opposition because you would anyway. But I think he's of the mind that, look, we're strong in what we do. If you can counteract us, good luck to it. If you can't and you want to fall into the trap of trying to compete with us and complain about it, then happy days for us.
Certainly. Callum, I think the key point on Saturday for me was the miss from the striker when he got through from Sibic's header. That could have seen the heads go down from the lads. That was a pivotal point in the game, wasn't it?
Yeah, massive game. So a massive point in the game. Such early on as well. Heart was in my mouth, certainly. At that point. Just a little bit of a miscommunication between Sibic and I think Collins in goal. The ball, if I remember rightly, it sort of slowed down in the air a little bit and just made the situation a little bit difficult for Toby Sibic, which is a shame, really, because a little bit out of character, that sort of mistake. I know nothing came from it in the end, thankfully.
No.
But, you know, he's been really, really consistent. I think we said at the time, Wayne, on commentary, didn't we, that he's actually been fantastic since he's come back into the team. So thankfully, you know, he wasn't punished for that mistake, and it was sort of brushed under the carpet. But no, such a massive moment in the game that if they would have gone 1-0 up, you know, the way Warnock's teams, the way they're playing, how they make it difficult for us, it'd have been a real tough task to obviously find that equaliser then and get back into the game. But thankfully, you know, that they didn't score from it, and we went on to win the game in the end. So no, all good.
You mentioned last week about Middlesbrough, not a lot to play for, Callum. You said that before the game, and did it show in their approach on Saturday? Because at 2-0, Barnsley were very, very comfortable in seeing the game out. Yeah, well, it was a strange one, really, because the first half, they made it really, really difficult for us, and they sat quite deep and troubled Barnsley. It were a really poor half, in truth. A half that we've seen quite often this season, a chess match, really, wasn't it, in terms of both teams trying to figure each other out. And I expected it to carry on like that in the second half, but again, we said it at the time, didn't we, Wayne, that Neil Warnock would have probably been quite disappointed with his players with how they showed up in that second half. They didn't really show much fight. And once Barnsley got the first goal, they sort of gave up, really, in a way, it seemed. And we got the second. And as you said, we saw the game out fantastically. And it really did show a side that don't really have anything to play for in the end, which was a strange thing, really, considering how difficult they made it for us in the first half. It was a completely different side, really, in the second half. But, you know, we can't complain about that whatsoever. That's obviously come to our game. So, no, that's perfect from a Barnsley point of view. Yeah, when you look at the result then, Wayne, and you look at Barnsley seeing the game out, winning comfortably 2-0, that was a fair reflection on Valérien Ismaël's side. It wasn't a fair reflection on a Neil Warnock team then, was it, on Saturday?
Well, like Callum says, it literally was two different sort of approaches from them. A lot of that is down to the way that we play, though. You know, again, like I said, I've been talking to people this week about it, and that relentless pressure that you get as a back four with, you know, balls going in behind you, turning you, squeezing you up the pitch, forwards running behind you, you know, forwards being hit by you. It becomes relentless. And normally in a game, you'd probably think as a defender, right, like if I get through to an hour, the pace will drop a little bit. If you watched Champions League last night, much as Dortmund pressed City really, really well for an hour, they dipped. And once they dipped, then, you know, you can get in the game. But Middlesbrough just couldn't cope with it. Like a lot of teams not been able to cope with it. The changes come at a great time. You know, he's very, very good with that. Times that perfectly. And from Middlesbrough's point of view, yeah, like Callum said, we said it. They were poor second half. They were poor from an attitude point of view, but that's down to, you know, the way that we approached it. Yeah, difference in mindset. I think if in the first half they perhaps thought if they could get a win there on Saturday, they might just still be in with a slim chance of getting there. But once that first goal went in, again, we know that we're a difficult team to play against, to score against. You know, we don't concede that many goals on a regular basis, do we? So psychologically, your head does go a little bit. And in the end, they just saw the game out. We saw the game out, and it was a comfortable win for us. But two sides that have got two different things to play for, without a doubt.
Certainly. Barnsley in a good position now when they've got to lose 2 games and Reading have got to win 2 games to leapfrog Barnsley into that 6th spot. Good opportunity now with 5 games to go to really see this out. I was reading something from Dave Bassett's book the other day. Barnsley finished on 82 points 20 years ago when they got to the Championship playoff final. 2 points more than Danny took them up to the Premier League with. It just shows how tough this season's going to be, that Barnsley could be 82, 83, 84 points and possibly still miss out.
Yeah, I doubt it. I mean, Callum, I can't tell you, I've been doing that over the last sort of few weeks and looking at the points per game, which is the team that I coach has been, we've just gone through that whole sort of thing, the points per game stuff. And when I looked at it before Saturday's game, the other week when I went to Wickham, I said to Matt, we were predicted to get 76 points. And I think before Saturday's game, it was, 78 points. And I think before Saturday's game, it was 77. And Reading were going to fall well short. And I can't, you know, listen, things can happen, strange things can happen. I just can't see us going and losing 4 or 5 games now, last 5, to not pick up the points that we need. Possibly, listen, might just be one more win that might end up doing it, depending on the results.
It could,
It might be. But the bottom line is, you know, we're in the position we're in because of the season that they've had and the performances they've had. And, you know, they've not really looked like falling apart at all. You know, we've not seen that, have we, Callum, in any of the games? You know, even when we've got beat, you know, the performance levels have been good. And I say it loads of times, as a manager, coach, that's all you look for because you know that the results will follow.
Yeah, the Chelsea game obviously was the starting point for them, Callum, wasn't it? As Wayne says, their performances were good. Results didn't come in January. And then obviously the Chelsea game came and then that massive run after that. And as a Barnsley fan, Callum, you know yourself, it feels weird being confident, doesn't it? But you see them on the Super 6 nearly every week and I'm putting them to win. It's very, very strange territory for a Barnsley fan.
It really is. You know, you said there, it's so strange to be going into every game thinking we can actually come out and win this. And you almost still don't want to believe the fact that we could actually make the playoffs. You don't want to get carried away just in case there's any last slip-ups. But no, you'd have to think now that the lads have shown just how good they actually are with the performances that they've given this season to be fairly confident for the rest of the season that they're going to make it. It'd take a humongous slip up now, as you said, with 5 points clear. That's 2 games that we'd have to lose, isn't it? And Reading would have to win 2 games and continue winning to keep us out of it. So it'd be a big ask to for us to not make the playoffs, wouldn't it? So, you know, fingers crossed. You never want to jump the gun and say that it's not going to happen. Say that it is going to happen. Sorry, too early, but. You know, the way they've played and the way Ismail sets up and the substitutions and just the desire to win every single game from every single player, whether they're starting or on the bench, you've got to be confident going into every single game.
You've mentioned the changes there, Callum. Wayne, you did yourself. Valerian Ismail likes to make the changes and some players are either getting an hour or well, if you classic 2 games in a week with this strange season that we've had, there's some players getting 120 minutes a week, some players are getting 60 minutes a week. There won't be too many heads dropped in that dressing room, will there, given that the manager's using the same core of players more or less every game?
Yeah, absolutely. And just touching on sort of the change and everything, I'm pretty certain when you look at the body language of players, when they come off or they go on or they don't go on, and we see it when we're sat there in the stadiums. It's all very positive. So I'm sure he's had conversations with people. I mean, we spoke about Morris on more than one occasion and I'm sure, well, I see a lot of things fans saying, why aren't you starting? I'm pretty certain he's had a conversation with him to say, at this moment in time, the impact that you make coming off the bench compared to starting with the mix that I've got out there far outweighs you starting the games. But you're a massive part of it, which he is. He comes on and changes games so many times and causes a problem that he's clearly understanding of the situation, as are all the players, like you're saying. I'm pretty sure that he maybe even tells them beforehand what's going to happen. If this pans out like this, we'll do that kind of thing. If we need to change it this way, we'll do that. And that communication as a player, that's all you ever want as a player. As long as you know where you stand and what your role is within the team or the squad, or if you're a sub or whatever, as long as you know, you can deal with that. And you think, and especially now because you're winning and you're up near the top. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Nobody's going to want to rock the boat on that.
No, certainly not. Callum, Wayne mentioned there, it seems a happy camp. And when everybody's understanding of what's going off, like the players seem to be at Barnsley, everything just seems to roll into one. Everything's mixing well. The tactics are spot on. The players are happy. They're winning games of football. The fans are happy as well. It's just been a complete turnaround from last season. Wayne, you saw a lot of games last season towards them when people weren't allowed in the stadiums. We spotlighted Cauley Woodrow last week and his importance to Barnsley. The 40.4% of goals and assists whilst he's been on the pitch have involved Cauley Woodrow. That shows how pivotal he's been to Barnsley. This season, Mads Anderson's been a completely different player. How important has he been, in your eyes, to this run? And basically, we've seen a completely different lad from last season.
We have, and Matt and I spoke about that after the break last year when they came back and obviously did what they did to stay up on the last day, about how it was noticeable. I think the time that they'd had together on the training field with the break definitely helped, because it does. And you got to credit Struber for that last year. He put a lot of work in with them, and I think Anderson benefited massively from that. He said it in commentary. I think what he has benefited from, and again, not all fans want to hear this because you don't want to see a mistake, but if you make a mistake as a player, that's going to happen. There's not one player on this earth that's not made a mistake that might have cost a goal or missed a goal or whatever. You see it at all levels. As long as you learn from that in the long run, and that's all you can ask for. And I think he benefited from Solbauer coming in and that experience alongside him in the games and in training. And I think also he's learned from his mistakes, which shows that he's a clever footballer. He understands what he needs to do to improve, and he has done. He's been probably one of the, if not the most improved player this year from last year's squad, I think, because he's taken his game to another level. I've seen stuff like, might have benefited from the crowd not being on his back a little bit. Yeah, he might well have done. I'm sure that's something as well. But I think now he's mature. He's learned from his mistakes, like a lot of them have. They went through that pain last year, losing games and being cut adrift at the bottom. So that stands you in good stead going forward. And it's how long sometimes you get in that process, because fans are very unforgiving, clubs can be very unforgiving. But I think if you take from this time last year to where we are now, I think that's just been a massive learning curve for Mads Anderson and plenty of others.
Certainly. Where do you stand, Callum, on the Mads Anderson discussion? Then obviously I'm with Wayne. I think that if there'd have been crowds inside Oakwell and the odd back pass that went astray would have caused a bit of rumblings in the crowd. And I think Mads has definitely benefited from a lack of crowds this season.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. And I think that's same for quite a few of the players, really. It's a very, very young squad. So in the same way, having fans in the stadium would help to spur them on. It certainly helped in terms of the fact that they probably would have made plenty of mistakes in that time with the added pressure of fans being there. And, as fans are, they can be a little bit impatient sometimes and may have got on the players' back. So I certainly agree that Mads in particular will have definitely benefited from that, because prior to the lockdown, he struggled really, didn't he, in a red shirt. But ever since then, he's come on leaps and bounds. And as Wayne said, it improved when Solbauer came in and the impact that he would have had, and then playing alongside Mikael Helik as well this season, he's just gone on to another level. and he's just been absolutely brilliant. I saw a stat the other day, he's the only player in the EFL to reach over 100 interceptions. So, you know, that just shows his impact during the game and how much he's involved, cutting out passes and defending. Just his all-round game in general has massively improved. And, yeah, there's a few factors as to why he'll have improved, and that could be down to coaching, the level of coaching at the club, the players he's played alongside with. But I do also think that taking that little bit of pressure off with the empty stadiums, that certainly will have helped, as it will have done with a few of the young lads as well.
I'm of the belief, Wayne, that it's helped with Brad Collins playing like a sweeper role. Teams can't get in behind Barnsley like they could last season. If there's a ball over the top, he's out very quick. Brad Collins has definitely shored up the back three for certain, hasn't he, since he came back into the side?
Well, again, we spoke about that, because if you're gonna play with a really high line, and you're gonna clear the area like as quickly as we do and get up to the halfway line, it's one of the things that they will have worked on in training will have been that exact setup, that once they squeeze up, the distances between the goalkeeper and the back three, so that any ball that comes over the top. And again, you know, quite clearly he's told, you know, you're not Edison or anybody like that. There's no point in trying to control it and play it. Just put it in behind him again, and that's our trigger to go and get him behind again. So again, I you know, you see things, and I know one or two people have sort of had palpitations about him doing that, but it's part of the role that he has to do, you know, and he keeps the ball out of the goal, stops the opposition getting any territorial gain. And I thought Walton did it well as well, to be fair, but I think Brad Collins is probably slightly better at it than him, maybe got a little bit more experience. But it's a massive part of what they do defensively, definitely.
It certainly is. Right then, gentlemen, Coventry on Sunday, obviously at St Andrews. In the past, a bit of a bogey team for Barnsley, but our statsman Andy assures us that it's not as bad as what some fans may believe, the bogey side that Coventry allegedly are for Barnsley. As an ex-player, Wayne, I need to ask you this question. Obviously, they're playing Thursday against Rotherham United, which is today as we're recording. They then play on Sunday against Barnsley after playing last weekend. When you're at this stage of the season and you're fighting for your lives, does one game just roll into the next? Is it not a case of we're playing so many games in so many days? Because you know what the ultimate goal is at the end of it all.
Yeah, fortunately, I've never been in a situation where I've been fighting for my life, if I'm honest. But yeah, it's a bit like ourselves last year, isn't it? In that, again, even when we were getting beat, I still sort of maintained that, you know, you saw signs in the team that they were always trying to have a go. Yeah, they were making mistakes and they were getting caught out, but heads weren't going down. They were having a go. And I think it's now for Coventry, they're in a situation where they probably think a little bit like that, and also probably think, well, if we can maybe get a couple more wins in the next 2 or 3 games, it gives us a foot into the last 2 or 3 games for them to try and completely get out of this. So it's not a given by any stretch of the imagination. No. But I do think that the prize for us, and as a player, when you're going for promotion or you're going to win something, the prize is slightly higher than when you're down there and you've got kind of used to losing games, and you know your mindset might be, if we go behind on that, here's another one, are we going to lose three more points here today? So I think we'll have a little bit too much for them, but again, it's how they approach it. I think Coventry, I don't know much about how they'll want to play or anything, but I think if they want to fall into the trap of trying to compete with us on a similar sort of game plan, then they're in for a bit of trouble.
Just going to say, Callum, there, very similar to the Wycombe game I think we might see on Sunday. Wycombe tried to match Barnsley physically, tried to match Barnsley's tempo, and in the end, once Barnsley got that first goal, they got a stranglehold on the game, even with 10 men. Do you see a similar approach well, we know the approach from Barnsley, but do you see a similar outcome on Sunday?
Yeah, I'd imagine so. And I think for teams that are finding themselves at the bottom of the table, to pick up points now, you've got to be dogged. You've got to make it hard for the opposition. You can't go out and play pretty football, can you, and try and pick up 3 points. You've just got to put in more effort than your opposition and try and make it difficult. Are going to do. Tonight's game that they've got against Rotherham is going to be massive, and the outcome of that, I think, will surely have an impact on our game with them on Sunday, whether they win or lose, just giving them that added impetus to try and get another 3 points. So it's always going to be a tough game, and you kind of don't. You look at the teams lower down in the league and you can say, oh, they're easier games because they're lower in the league, but these are the worst games to play for me at this time of the season, where they're fighting for every single point. So it's certainly going to be a difficult one, but as you say, I think if Barnsley can find that opening goal, as they did against Wycombe, it just sort of takes the pressure off a little bit. Coventry will then have to come at us to try and get back in the game. So hopefully that'll open the game up a little bit more, and Barnsley will be able to get on top, which we've seen so many times this season. So yeah, let's just hope we can get another 3 points.
Yep. Score prediction then, Cal, for Sunday.
Judging off that then, if we can get the opening goal and it'll open the game up a little bit, I'm going to go with 2-0 Barnsley.
2-0 Barnsley. Wayne, we've just said there, myself and Callum, first goal imperative for Barnsley to strangle the opposition. If they get that first goal, I see Barnsley winning. I think I'm going to go 2-0 with Callum. What about yourself?
Clean sweep. 0-0 at half-time, 2-0 at full-time.
Excellent. Well, listen, lads, been an absolute pleasure. Hope you can join us again, Wayne, and we'll have a foursome next time and hopefully get Ridgeyard back on. That's been
Can we film it next time in the jacuzzi, do you think? Or?
That could be a good idea, that.
Could be, yeah. We'll do it
for playoffs. We'll do it in the jacuzzi.
Live from the
playoffs. Yeah, well, definitely. With Zoom now, you can do absolutely anything, lads, can't you? Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Just want to say thank you to everybody that's subscribed on YouTube, that's listening on Audioboom. We've got a lot more surprises coming, and you'll find out a bit about that this weekend. So keep tuned in, whether you're listening in the car or whether you're watching us on YouTube. It's a goodbye from me, Callum.
Goodbye from me.
Goodbye, Wayne.
Take it easy. Goodbye, everybody. Take it easy.
You Reds.
You Reds.